I'm going to be presenting the first half of the talk today, but before I begin, I did want to tell you a little bit about what it is we do over there at Capeless. Now, I started the site about 18 months ago, partially in response to the Wisconsin protests in 2011. I realized that the comics I was reading were not offering really any solace during that period, and it made me ask what it was about the industry that caused it to avoid social issues that affected the real world. And also spurred a desire to highlight those books that did focus on issues of the day, whether they were mainstream or independent, or even some books that only come out online. What we do, as we call it, is we put comics in context. We explore the larger societal and market forces that influence the industry. Now, besides myself and Mike, we have a staff of anywhere between 8 and 12 volunteer contributors from around the world who generate analytical and editorial content and offer their reviews of upcoming and weekly books as well. Now, the topic that I'm going to be exploring today, before Mike presents on Caitlin Kiernan, is how Gail Simone's sizable body of work in comics and comic book commentary have combined to make her one of the most powerful women in the industry. Now, I saw a couple of people here at the Women in Comics panel yesterday. I'm going to assume, is anybody here not familiar with Gail Simone and her work? I would be really surprised if the answer to that question had been yes. Now, when she came on the scene in 1999, it was not as a creator, it was actually as a blogger. I'm sure most people here are familiar with Women in Refrigerators. Let me back up a little bit. For the purposes of this discussion, we want to divide Gail Simone's history into sort of three distinct periods. And the first period is what I'm going to refer to as the Maverick period. Now, this period spanned from 1998 to 2002 and began with her work as a blogger. Now, has anybody here not read Women in Refrigerators? Again, would have been really surprised if the answer to that question had been no. When she published Women in Refrigerators, obviously there was a great deal of hubbub that surrounded the list, generated a great deal of controversy, and drew a lot of attention to Gail Simone herself. Immediately following that, she began a column on comic book resources that came out every week to a month, depending on what was going on in her own life, called You'll All Be Sorry. Now, if you haven't read this column, and I would definitely recommend going back and looking at it from the very beginning all the way through till when she stopped doing it in 2003, it was primarily satirical commentary on the nature of the industry, people working within its creative and editorial apparatus, as well as the media promotion apparatus. Pretty much anything that was wrong with comics culture got highlighted in this column. Now, the first column, which was published in October of '99, featured a fictional conversation between John Byrne and Wizard magazine. And I don't see anybody here that looks too young to remember what Wizard magazine was, but it was basically the leading source of comics journalism at the time. And the exchange showed Byrne and the writer discussing Byrne taking over and revamping Watchmen, which is kind of funny given that Simone would do that exact same thing 10 years down the road when she did Silk Spectre. And it's absolutely hysterical. When you go back and read it today, it reminds you almost of something that you would find in The Onion. It's full of industry buzzwords, Byrne playing with just reveling in those aspects of his personality and his process that were being just pilloried by fans on message boards all over the internet. She manages to use him as an avatar, and she does this repeatedly throughout the column, using different personalities within comics as an avatar to discuss publishing trends, overexploitation of the marketplace. There's a great moment with Byrne saying, I am the foil cover, I am the variant edition, I am the one who can change only enough that I can take credit for it but not actually change anything at all. And it essentially went on like this. And the other reason that it's remarkable for me when we go back and look at these columns, particularly from the perspective that we take at Capeless, is that she managed to touch on nearly every single issue within comics that connected to a larger social issue from the time that comics were started. Somewhere around the middle of her run on Yabs, she did